Business Leadership South Africa, or BLSA, says illicit trade in alcohol and cigarettes during the lockdown restrictions has resulted in billions of rand lost in revenue and the mushrooming of criminal syndicates working in the black market to peddle these products. This has also resulted in the South African Revenue Service saying, it has lost over 1.5 billion rand in excise duty as a result of the alcohol and cigarette restrictions implemented last year. Let's get a little bit more detail about this. We're joined by Fouché Burgers, who is the National Project Manager of Business Leadership SA. Fouché, thanks very much for joining us. Good to have you on Morning Live.
Good morning. Good morning to the viewers as well.
So let's talk. How much has the industry lost in revenue sales exactly? I mean, there are so many varying figures for alcohol and cigarettes, but from your calculations, what are the costs?
It's very difficult to determine at this stage, but just on the excise duties, due to cigarettes, I think if we get the final figures, then it will be something like 5 billion and 6.4 billion for the liquor sales. I think that's the money side of things, but the job losses are also very big. And of course, the dependence on these jobs are also very big. We're talking about 6,000 job losses in the alcohol industry.
Yeah.
And we can't afford this at this stage where we have record lows of employment and youth employment in all of that. So, yeah, I think the consequences are big.
And this is the issue, is that these mushrooming black markets are just getting harder and harder to control. But during these particular lockdowns, I mean, when we speak about the black market for cigarette, the black market for alcohol, it flourished. I can only imagine, because we kept on saying it over and over again, as much as the government may have prohibited the sale of alcohol and cigarettes, people were still smoking and people were still drinking. So that was an obvious point towards the fact that there is a massive black market for this.
Yes, there is. Illicit trade, if you speak about cigarettes, worldwide is about 10% of all legal sales. In South Africa, in a normal year, it's about between 25 and 28%. And of course, during the lockdown, it went to 100%. And we created this illegal market structures. And they're businesses because they're organized crime businesses. And it's going to take a long time and a lot of effort to break down these illegal businesses. And, everybody will have to play a role in it. The law enforcement side of things, SARS, especially South African police services, and then also businesses and the public that needs to help to get this down.
Yeah, I mean, I know that what you have said and the statistics you talk to is that, particularly with cigarettes, the illicit trade already before lockdown and before what we're going through over this coronavirus time had already accounted for about 33% of all sales of cigarettes. Then, of course, it went up to 100%. What are we looking at now? Because people say, once you switch brands and find it cheaper, you probably stick to that brand and don't really go back to your original.
Yeah, I think it's at least at 35 to 40% currently. It might be higher. I know that somebody made a recording the other day, Yusuf Abramji, and I think he visited something like 40 retailers, and of which 39 sold illegal cigarettes. So it is very, very big.
Now, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about concerns that the formal trade in these products are diminishing because of, as we've said, this mushrooming of underground and black market syndicates peddling these products, which you say are often counterfeit and do not meet any of the safety standards that are in place.
Yes, that's true. Just to get back to the illicit trade market, I mean, the competition is now very big. Your legal people are now competing against the illicit traders, which doesn't need to pay the taxes on it. So they've got a competitive advantage to doing that. Now, if you look at the counterfeited drugs, the alcohol industry estimates that 35% of the illicit alcohol that's sold are in fact dangerous, can be dangerous to people themselves. Cigarettes the same, But there's also a lot of what they call white-labeled cigarettes. Are in fact supposed to leave the country and then through round tripping never leaves the country and then gets back onto the market. So although the cigarettes might be fine, the taxes hasn't been paid on them. So it's a combination of things that are very hazardous, that can really harm you, to even products that are very well manufactured.
You know, we're talking, we're talking about alcohol and cigarettes here, but the repercussions are huge. You know, yesterday, I know during this discussion, this online discussion, there was also the focus on agriculture, what this is actually doing to the agricultural sector, textiles. We're also talking about the manufacturing of illicit drugs and medicines. I mean, we already are seeing this whole talk of ivermectin. This is obviously before the court cases came about, but we saw all of these fake ivermectin tablets that came into the market and nobody knows what they're taking. And this is a very, very big danger.
It is, and you're 100% correct. It's not only cigarettes and alcohol, it's textiles. It's basically anything that can be traded. I mean, the motor vehicles, the illegal importation of motor vehicles in South Africa is also one of the big problems that we have, where the second-hand vehicles are dumped into, actually Africa, but that's illegal trade when they arrive at the ports in Durban, and then they're supposed to leave the country, but they don't leave. So it's anything that you can, but drugs is a concern, especially now with the vaccines. We might see illicit trade in vaccine one of these days.
Yeah, and that is dangerous. I don't even want my mind to go there, but the problem is that these criminals, and that's exactly what they are. I mean, these are criminals that are preying on people's lives. When you are in any form of illicit trading and the manufacture of illicit goods, this is a major crime. Now, I mean, you talk about, imagine, a vaccine and people just don't take, you're taking something that you don't even know what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, it's 100%. It is dangerous. It's going to become a massive problem for us in the future. So it's already a very big problem. And we have to do something about it. And yesterday during the webinar that we had, we've discussed a few solutions that we think should happen. There's nothing much new. But, I mean, law enforcement is still their primary responsibility to do that. And that is now SARS and SABC. But from business side, we are always eager to assist. The SABC, Business Against Crime South Africa is a division of Business Leadership South Africa. And we've been working closely with the police for many years. And we have to do something about this illicit trade, without a doubt. The illicit trade is so devastating, and you don't always think about it, but job losses leads to poverty, and poverty kills people.
Yeah, it does, and then people will go to all means to try and make a living wherever it is. I mean, we talk about the dangers of illicit products. How are they manufactured and then distributed in South Africa? I mean, as we say, they understood not to meet the regulation of making these products. We know they are there. We know they are being distributed. We see these things on the roads, being sold on the side of the street. We see people drinking these alcoholic beverages. So everybody knows they're there. But where they're being manufactured, and why are we not clamping down harder on this?
Yeah, they manufactured all over. I mean, if you think about cigarettes, if you make a so-called Zol and sell it, it can be anything in it. You never know what you buy. And with the unbranded cigarettes as well, even the branded cigarettes, you don't know what you're actually getting in. A lot of them are imported, from our neighboring countries. Some of them are locally manufactured. And the alcohol a lot of them is homebrewed alcohol. I mean, you can do it properly, but there's always a danger if you don't know where this alcohol comes from. It can kill you.
Yeah. I asked you a question about, we know where it's being manufactured, we know it's being distributed, and the problem is police officers have been accused of being middlemen in this illegal trade. Is there actual proof of this? I mean, how exactly does or might it happen? We've seen photographs of police vans that were transporting alcohol. Your organisation have actually accused police of being middlemen in these crimes because some police are just not from a certain area and are posted there, and this of course is due to short staffing, and then they leave. It's a big problem that these policemen come in and come out of the communities, and it's easy for them to be the middlemen. Perhaps you can talk to us about this.
Yes, Leon, we have made some allegations, and we need to follow that up, of course. I mean, it's not only us that did it, but more into the industries themselves, where they have proved that policemen and other officials were involved in it. Now, that information will be given through to the police and to be followed up. But yes, I mean, there were SARS officials being arrested not too long ago that, at the border post that let these things go through. It's all over, and that's what we need to address. And I think that's where we as business can assist the SABC and SARS as well, by sharing the information that we have. And not only business, but also the consumers, the normal public needs to share this information. And if the information is available, from our side, especially from the Business Against Crime side, we have a very good relationship with the police on very high levels with the National Commissioner, and we will keep on following that up until something is done about it. But the information needs to go through to them.
We see the detrimental effects that this has on industries, the toll it has on jobs, the toll it has on the economy. I mean, I remember when we would speak about the illicit trade of CDs and music and artists that, have their discs copied and their music copied and then sold on the side of the street. The same go for movies where, they would be sold and people wouldn't go into cinemas, they wouldn't watch the original. This takes money away, this is losing jobs. These are two industries that we've seen severely affected. I mean, we just saw the closure of Musica, and there was one of our music stores that used to sell these CDs and music rights and DVDs, and obviously everything now is online and streaming. But from a CD to a movie to a handbag to a T-shirt to anything that is fake, the repercussions are massive. And I'm not sure if people understand when they buy these counterfeit goods what they're actually doing behind the scenes to an economy and to jobs.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I don't think the consumer that buys it understands exactly what he's doing. And apart from the fact that it's illegal, you are feeling organized crime. And at the end of the day, job losses, I think we all know what happened with the textile industry in South Africa, where we had major job losses. The same is happening now in the tobacco industry and the alcohol industry. And, well, you've mentioned the music industry as well. The repercussions are massive. We can start with the education program and try to educate the public itself. I mean, it might be more productive if we start with the retailers of these illicit products, to educate them. But the man on the street needs to understand that he's in fact causing poverty, job losses, and it might be his job next that's been lost.
Fouché, you're speaking such truth. These are big mind shifts that we as consumers need to adjust inside of us to understand that it may be a cheaper option, but the cost is much more massive behind the scenes. The last question I want to leave you with is, people constantly question the lockdowns. They constantly question the fact that the alcohol sales are not allowed. Cigarettes, we saw that for a very long time. We haven't seen it since, and I don't know if that'll ever come back. But, these are the kind of things that obviously stimulate this market more. What do you think about the lockdowns and the stopping of the sale of alcohols and things like that? I mean, do you think that could be one way of actually trying to bring an end to this illicit market instead of stimulating it even more? So I suppose my question is your views on lockdowns and stopping the sale of alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah, Leanne, it's always a sort of difficult, question to answer. But from our side, I mean, we should government will speak to us before they do these lockdowns or the bans on the sale of certain things like cigarettes and alcohol, so that business can prepare themselves. And we might come up with some good ideas how we can still go on with at least keeping the jobs going and still being effective in stopping the spread of the virus itself. But we are pleading, we've always been pleading to government, speak to us, please speak to business leadership, and so that we can discuss this before you just slam a ban on us. I don't think the ban on cigarettes had any effect at all. I might be wrong, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical person, but I think it caused a lot of harm. As I said in the beginning, it causes poverty, and we've seen that. We're already in a very difficult situation with the lockdown itself. It needs to happen. But the ban of certain products is just causing immense poverty. And poverty is, again, is killing people at the end of the day.
Thank you for talking to us, Fouché Burgers from Business Leadership SA, talking to us about the alcohol and cigarette industry losing billions during some of the lockdown. And, of course, not only alcohol and cigarettes. I know we focus so much on that. Thanks very much, Fouché. But there's also the music industry, the movie industry, the textile industry, agriculture, you name it, drugs. You mentioned vaccines. I don't want my mind to go to the vaccines. But, this is the problem with illicit trade. And when you don't stop it will affect every industry. All right, tweets.